Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. We're getting some incredible images from cabin country in northern Minnesota. This is what people in Beltrami County are dealing with this morning. Damage from a powerful storm that brought winds up to 120 miles per hour. Several hundred people are still without power right now in the Bemidji area, which got the brunt of the storm. That's about 3.5 hours northwest of the Twin Cities. Now you can see the damage to power lines plus huge trees over on their sides. The Bemidji mayor says there isn't a single home or business that was not impacted. All this is due to those top wind speeds as high as 120 miles an hour, according to the National Weather Service. Last night, the emergency management director described a 10-mile wide swath of damage, and residents realized a hard truth.
There's parts of our city that I think are probably never going to look the same again.
I realize that, but we're all going to be here, and we have something new to look at, probably.
The emergency management director says it may take some customers a week to get their power back. This morning, we're also tracking impacts from this weekend's extreme heat. MnDOT responding to pavement buckling, this one popping up overnight on 394 near Penn Avenue in Minneapolis. The westbound lanes just reopened before 5 a.m. as crews got to work on it. And this is Highway 610 near 252 in Brooklyn Park, where crews had to stop traffic last night to repair a buckle across the eastbound lanes. There are still cones out on I-35 near Forest Lake for these buckled spots. If you come across one this morning, you're asked to call 911 and report it. That dangerous heat not hitting just Minnesota. From the Midwest up the East Coast, millions of Americans are under an extreme heat warning, some for the very first time ever. And while we get a break, others still have to sweat it out this week. Emily Ikeda is in Philadelphia.
Well, the National Weather Service posting today, we simply cannot stress this enough. It will be dangerously hot over the next 3 days, and we can see why as we've been watching the temperature climb by the hour. Here in Philadelphia, we could see triple-digit temperatures for the first time in more than a decade, and Pennsylvanians are far from alone in facing this brutal heat. Some 150 million Americans are up against heat alerts throughout the day. It's why we're seeing some cities turn libraries into cooling centers. Splash pads like the one behind me are having extended hours so people can take refuge from this brutal heat, as dozens of cities could break new heat temperature records throughout the day. And it's a brutal heat that is hanging on. Over the weekend, we saw several Major League Baseball players suffer heat-related illnesses, including Trent Thornton with the Seattle Mariners, who had to be walked off the field after suffering heat exhaustion. And on scorchers like this, remember, the shade is your friend. If possible, you want to park your car close to a tree. Keep those blinds closed inside your home. City officials here pointing out that in conditions like these, it takes just 2 minutes for the interior of your vehicle, if turned off, to reach unsafe temperatures. And this is a heat that will linger, that will be hanging on. Here in Philadelphia, for instance, the heat health emergency is in effect through Wednesday evening. Back to you.
Developing right now, Senator John Hoffman's wife, Yvette Hoffman, is calling for one more attempted murder charge against the suspect in their shooting. In a social media post, Yvette Hoffman said their daughter Hope was lined up with them, quote, execution style, and that she may not have gotten shot because of all the commotion. Yvette also credits Hope's quick thinking with saving more lives after she called 911 and repeated multiple times that her father, who was shot, is a state senator. This morning, Manny Collins' mother is now offering a $10,000 reward for any information leading to her son's return. The 16-year-old was last seen in Columbia Heights May 8th. This past week, Anoka County officials, the BCA, and the FBI continued their search at a landfill in Elk River. Police say they have a person of interest, but they have not named anyone. Ashley Berry has previously said she believes Manny's father is involved. This morning, global tensions rising after President Trump ordered punishing strikes on Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend, plunging the region into an unprecedented new phase of a decades-old conflict. Israel and Iran are still trading fire as brand new video this morning shows what's left after an Israeli airstrike in Tehran. Now, with the U.S. wading into the conflict, U.S. officials are keeping a close eye out for any threats here at home. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. As the nation and the world brace for Iran's response, Israel and Iran are still trading fire, and Iran's top diplomat is now set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to talk next steps. This morning, amid the fallout over U.S. airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites, key questions remain, including the extent of the damage.
The strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Pentagon officials say it's too soon to know for sure. B-2 bombers are back home at their Missouri base as we get a first look at the Iranian targets struck, before and after images showing the massive impact on one of the nuclear facilities. And the looming question, how will Iran respond? President Trump promising far greater force if Iran does retaliate. Vice President Vance framing the U.S. strikes as a limited move aimed at pushing Iran toward peace.
We're not at war with Iran, we're at war with Iran's nuclear program.
While President Trump posted, quote, "If the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change?" That's a shift from his administration's messaging so far.
This mission was not and has not been about regime change.
And could add to concerns for many Republicans uneasy with another prolonged U.S. Middle East entanglement. GOP Representative Thomas Massie openly criticizing the president's move.
He promised us which we would put America first.
President Trump vowing to campaign against Massie, who joined many Democrats questioning whether the strikes were constitutional without congressional approval. Now, as anti-war protests break out across the U.S., huge billboards in Israel thanking President Trump. The Department of Homeland Security issued a new warning about heightened threats inside the U.S. from Iran. That after Iran threatened to activate sleeper cell terror in the U.S. if attacked, according to 2 U.S. officials and a person with knowledge of the threat. The Trump administration is promising increased surveillance. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Meantime, local officials and peace activists spent the last week watching to see if the administration would wade into escalating conflict between Iran and Israel. At a demonstration last night, people with family ties to Iran spoke out about the impact another war would have on the region. At the same time, local security experts describe the bombings as strategic.
Right now, to our families that are living through this, the second war in 50 years. Think about that. 2 wars in the last 50 years the Iranians have had to deal with. That means the world to my family right now. It means the world to all of our families.
I do believe that this attack will lead to actual diplomatic solution, because diplomacy backed by credibility and backed by strength is a lot more effective than simple empty words.
Well, the Department of Homeland Security is also warning of the possibility of more anti-Semitic attacks here in the U.S. Governor Walz says on social media there is no known threats of any violence in Minnesota at this time, but that he will continue to monitor the situation. This morning, we know the name of the man police say was planning a mass shooting at a Michigan church Sunday morning. Authorities say Brian Browning was shot and killed by a security guard. Everything unfolding just before 11 a.m. Sunday when police started getting reports of a man wearing tactical gear and pulling weapons out of his car near the church. Police say he was armed with an AR-15 style rifle and had hundreds of rounds of ammo. Starting tonight, new security measures are taking effect at Boom Island Park following a deadly mass shooting there earlier this month. The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board says the park entrance road and parking lot will close now at 9 p.m. Meanwhile, the park will stay open past that time. A mobile camera set up there after the shooting will remain, and the park board's violence prevention team will be patrolling the area. A very busy night in Oklahoma City after the Thunder win their very first NBA championship. OKC beating the Indiana Pacers in Game 7 last night, 103-91, hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy, including Minnesota native Chet Holmgren.
I'm proud of these guys for holding it down while I was out. I'm proud of myself for never quitting. Broken bones, bruises, it's all temporary, but this is forever. Let's go.
Yeah, and for the first time in 25 years, the same player won the regular season MVP, the scoring title, and now the finals MVP. Well, you know him, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He had 29 points and 12 assists. And stick with us, more news and weather coming up after the break.